discuss about mental health illness. She's a GP, a radio show presenter for Medical Radio Show in Peterborough. She is also a lead mental health doctor. She also works as a local politician, and she's the pride of our city, Peterborough. I just want to ask you a few questions.
Of course.
How does mental health affect children?
Well, you may or may not know that mental health is something that is very, very important nowadays, especially because of the coronavirus pandemic. And the reason behind that is that people across the world in different countries have to stay locked behind doors. And as a result of that, there are lots of children who are having to stay at home. They're not able to go to school. They're not able to mix with their friends. And as a result of that, it can make them feel quite low. And because they're unable to meet with other people as much as they would like to, sometimes it can affect their feelings and their emotions. And that is why it affects children in that way too. And of course, there are many other reasons why children have mental health problems. Some children live in poverty. They're not able to have some of the nice things that children have, like you or any other child has. Some children don't have a parent. They live with one parent, or they don't have the other parent. That can make them feel a bit low in themselves. And some children in school don't have as many friends, and some children are bullied, so that can affect their mental health too. So there are lots of different ways in which mental health can affect children.
How do people behave towards those with mental disorders?
So it's very important, first of all, that we talk about how people can get help for mental disorders, and then we can talk about how people behave towards others with mental health disorders. It's very important that if somebody has a mental health problem, everybody should treat them with kindness, and they should treat them with sympathy. Because when you treat somebody who has a mental health problem with sympathy, then they feel nice about themselves, that somebody's being kind to them. And we all know it costs nothing to be kind, does it? And in that way, I would always suggest be very kind to those people that have mental health disorders. So that's how people should behave. But yes, we do know that not everybody is kind in the world, and some people tend to ignore those that have mental health problems, and some people can be nasty to those that have mental health problems. But if you or your friends ever see somebody who has a mental health problem that is being treated not in a nice way, my advice to you is that you should be kind to that person so that they ignore what the other person's doing to them.
What kind of problems are the most common mental health issues?
So, the most common mental health issues are depression and anxiety. So depression is supposed to be the fourth most highest illness in the human body in the world. It's very important, and alongside depression comes anxiety. Anxiety is when you're feeling very nervous about something. For example, if you're about to go on stage and perform a speech, or you're about to give your exams. People tend to feel very nervous, they can feel their heart racing. And depression is a little bit different to anxiety, because depression means that you don't have any interest or pleasure in doing what you usually like to do. You don't like talking to anybody. You like to keep yourself to yourself. You don't take care of yourself as much. You may overeat, or you may eat too little. So these are all signs of depression. So depression and anxiety are the most common mental health problems in the world today.
Why do people develop mental health issues?
There are lots of different reasons why people develop mental health issues. So if I'm going to speak in very easy language for you to understand. So inside your head you've got your brain that helps you to think, doesn't it? And there are lots of chemicals that can attach to little receptors inside your brain that can make you deal with things that are negative or positive. So if something negative happens to you, those chemicals attach to the receptor on your brain, so you're able to take it easy, and get through that difficult patch. But people who suffer with depression aren't able to absorb those chemicals as easily, and that makes them more and more and more sad and upset, and then they find themselves in a vicious cycle. And when they find themselves in a vicious cycle, they can start feeling low a lot of the time. So when they feel low a lot of the time, that is when you can say that a person or a patient is depressed.
Do people with mental health issues always get help?
This is a really good question, Mohammed, so I'm very happy that you've asked me this question. It depends upon the person who is depressed. There are lots of people who feel so sad that they don't have the courage to go to a doctor and ask for help. So there are lots of ways in which we can help those people. A patient can go to their family doctor to get help, or they can go to a charity or an organisation, telephones like the Samaritans to ask for help. But it is very important that anybody that suffers from a mental health problem at least tries to find themselves some help. And anybody that goes to either their family doctor or a charity or an organisation is always given some form of advice on how to deal with their mental health issue.
What factors contribute to children developing mental health issues?
So again, it's a very good question. And like I said before, there are lots of reasons why children the world over develop mental health issues. So if we talk about children in the developed world or in the first world, such as in the United Kingdom, in Europe, in America, the children here are more well off as compared to the children in third world countries like Africa, like Asia. So their problems are different. So if we talk about the children in first world countries, first of all, some of the reasons why they can become depressed is they might be bullied at school, they might not have as many friends, they might just be living with one parent and not both parents. There could be problems with their finances or with how rich or poor their parents are, and they might not have many nice things. There are those children that live in care homes, for example, or social care that don't have any parents. So there are lots of factors in the developed world that make children suffer from mental health problems. And in the third world countries or the developing countries, the reasons for children developing mental health problems is poverty, is because they have a lack of education, is because they don't have basic necessities like clean water, sanitation. Some children we know are child labourers and they're working, aren't they, when they're very young to look after their family. But it doesn't mean that they're not suffering from mental health problems. They could also be depressed. So there are different reasons all throughout the world why children suffer from mental health problems.
Are there things at school which lead to poor mental health?
That's a fantastic question, Mohammed. So if we talk about schools in the United Kingdom, there are lots of reasons why children can suffer from mental health in schools. First of all, a very big issue is bullying. I think bullying is a horrible thing to happen to any child. So if a child is being bullied, they can feel not very confident about themselves. They can feel different from everybody else, especially if they're made to feel different or if they're laughed at or made fun of. So bullying is one good reason. Another reason is if a child has come from somewhere else and doesn't know how to speak the English language very well, there can be a lack of communication and they can start to feel very isolated or lonely. Another reason why children can suffer from mental health in schools is if they don't understand or they're not able to read and write as well as everybody in their class and they fall behind. That can cause or lead to a lack of confidence, and it can also make them feel depressed and suffer from mental health problems. And obviously within schools as well, if you have those children that have problems at home, it can sometimes become more obvious when they're in school.
How do people feel who live with the mental health illness people?
So it's very important that anybody that lives with somebody with a mental health problem has to be very supportive. Because if you're not supportive, the person that you live with won't get better. So anybody that lives with somebody who has mental health might feel sad themselves that the person that they're living with, they obviously love them. So it's very painful to see somebody go through some mental health trauma or emotional trauma. And for them, some people are very strong and they're able to support that person. Some of them feel very helpless because they don't know what to do for the person that they're living with. And some people are quite brave and they say, we're going to make sure that we get you the right help, give you the right attention so that you can get better soon. So yes, but if you're children and you have a parent that suffers from mental health problem, it can be very difficult because it's very painful seeing your mummy or daddy suffer from a mental health problem. So that can be difficult as well.
Thank you very much. You gave me your valuable time. You gave me so much information and I learned a lot. You answered all my questions. Thank you.
You're very welcome, and it was an absolute pleasure to be interviewed by you, Mohammed. Thank you.
Thank you.